like hell we'll have fresh deer liver. Well, Munger and I go out, and I get in this tree where I know those deer coming out east of Joe's on the meadow, and there was a doe come out there with a pair of fawns, great big old doe, and I shot her, killed her dead or nail. Munger couldn't get over it. He said, "My God, just like that." I said, "Yeah, just like that." She ran up and died right there in the creek. There was one of them little salt boxes you get salt in that has a plastic coating in it, you know, a salt box, cardboard box. So when we dressed her, we threw the heart and liver in that box, rested off the creek, and took it in. And that night when we got at Dick's house, we all sat down and have a scotch and everything. And so Foss sits in the chair there. We had that liver sitting right next to his chair. And Foss looked over and said, "What's in the chair?" And Munger said, "Well, it's that deer liver you wanted for dinner tonight." And Foss said, You're kidding me." He said, "No, we're not kidding you." And he looked over and sure enough, there it was. Well, God, he thought that was funny to how we killed the deer. Well, anyway, so the next night, Munger and I go back to that same tree. Now, thinks I, you know, Munger, he don't care what he shoots. He just wants to shoot. And he's got those white arrows in his quiver. Don't forget the white arrows. And we're on this alfalfa field, and this great big tree that grew right out of the bank, right out over that alfalfa. So we get up in that tree, and I get the camera, and I get above him, but it kept getting later and later, and I didn't have enough light for photos. I wanted to get pictures of him shooting the deer. Well, I started calling, just that little bleed you make with your throat. By God, out come those fawns. Come out of the timber about, 60, 70 yards east of us. And that little buck fawn looked up there, and here he come on the dead run. Ran right up under that tree. Munger shot at him and missed. Well, there was a white arrow sticking, you know. So the deer run back, and the little doe fawn, she stayed back. I started calling, God dang, he turned around and come back again. That time he come out a little further. Munger shot him again and missed. So he's got another white arrow sticking out there. So the deer run off. I called that buck fawn back again, and that time he shot, and the deer, he missed him. The deer just stood there and kind of moved over. He shot again and missed him again. Now he's got like 4 or 5 arrows from these shots sticking there.
He's building a fence around.
It looked like a big fence out there. It did. That's what we joked. He said, "Yeah, you build a fence." When he shot his last arrow, you know, and the deer just walked off, I said, "Don't you wish you had my quiver?" God, that Munger was funny. I got to tell you this story, though. That same place up on Joe Levin's, his boy came, Rick, came with him one year, a hell of a nice kid. And we're going up, and where Dick said I crawled down that creek on Fred's decoys, you could walk out around the edge of that, and there was a ditch over here, and timber on this side, timber on the river, and then there was a lot of timber here and up on the bank here. And then that, 40 acres of alfalfa. So we're sneaking in there to get in that same bale pile that Fred was in when I snuck on the decoys, you know. We're walking, Rick and he and I are walking down there, and as we turned in to go along the river, along the timber to kind of be hidden, you know, we're getting closer to that bale pile, and we look up, and out here comes this deer. It's 80 yards, a good 80 yards. And Bob said, wait a minute. I said, "What?" "There's a deer," he said. Well, I said, "Yeah," but my God, as far as he couldn't tell what color it was, you know. I said, "Yeah, there's a deer." "Well, just a minute," he said. And he walked over to the edge of that timber, and Rick and I were right behind him. And he pulled back. He was shooting a little, I think, a mag.
52-inch mag.
Yeah, 52-inch mag. He knelt down on one knee, and he pulled back, and he just elevates like that. He let go of that arrow, and it seemed like it took all afternoon. That arrow got over there and took that deer right in the rib cage. He made about 2 jumps, just fell over dead in hell.
Right through the heart.
Right through the lungs and heart area. Well, the heart, he got it through the heart.
I got a picture of the heart.
Yeah, I got an arrow across in it. And Munger then, now this is Bob Munger. You had to know him to appreciate him. He never got up. He's still on that one knee, and his bow's still in his hand. He's looking up like this, you know. And the deer fell over dead, and he didn't even turn around. He said to Rick and I, he said, "Will you guys just go ahead and get in your stands, and I'll go out and get this deer and drag it in and clean it." Just like it was supposed to be. God, he was the funniest little guy. He was a good guy, old Munger was.
Yeah, he was something else.
Yeah.
His book, Trailing the Bear, has a lot of stories on some of that.
Yeah.
And he's got it pretty right, but his dates are wrong. See, I know the dates were what the proper were, because I had aircraft logs with them written down when I was hauling them back and forth from Omaha on my plane, you know, and some of these hunts and everything, so I know when the proper dates and years were. They even had his years wrong on some of them, like when he and Fred went. But Bob had been drinking quite a bit in his later years when he was doing these notes. And if if I could have had a chance to edit that a little bit, I could have helped him make a lot better book. But the kids published it after he died because he wanted it published. And Mrs. Bear and Fred really weren't too enthused about him writing that book.
He was,
He was a good guy.
the thing I want to tell you about it is, they were great to tell stories. And Munger and Fred had been together so much that they just kind of knew each other that well. You know, they tell these stories, and of course they cranked it up quite a little when they told the stories. You know, I'll never forget. But now here's the deal: both of those guys told me this story, and it was absolutely damn near word for word when they told me. It was like a year or two apart. Fred said, we went up to Alaska, we're going to go in there and hunt. And he said the game warden there, they knew the game warden, and they contacted him, and he talked with them and everything. They had to get their permits and wait for the guy to haul them. They were going to fly in someplace, but they had a day that there just wasn't anything going on. So Fred said, we got off the boat and we're walking. Now this is Munger again. He said, we're walking up the street and it's rainy. So we got on rain gear and everything, the curbs are running water. And he said, Munger looked down and there's a $20 bill floating down.
The bank is at the head of the street.
There's a $20 bill floating down. Fred said, Bob picked it up. And he looked up and he looked up at the bank and he said, oh look, Fred, the bank's leaking. But he just said, well anyway, the game warden told him, they said that the bear, you know, the black bears are out from hibernation and stuff, and he said, God, you might get a bear permit, and they just get them through the sporting goods dealers, and go outside and and kill yourself a bear. So Fred said, by God, we did. We've got permits, and they got a cab driver to drive them out to kind of the edge of town and just kind of dump and come back and pick them up.
Well, they had Builder back too.
Well, yeah, and they had, that was another story or two. Well, anyway, I got to ask you about that, remind me of that.
That was on that bear hunt, Builder back.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, so Fred said, we're going up this hillside, you know, and he said it's tundra, mossy stuff, not very many trees, because that's just a vegetation on top of rock, you know. And Fred said, we get up there and on top of this hill, and there's this moose, and she's got a calf with her from probably the year before. And so Fred said, God, we get some good pictures. They all carried pretty good camera gear. So they laid there on their bellies on that hilltop, and they took pictures of that moose and her calf. And when they got all done, Fred said, you got enough? Munger said, oh yeah, I got enough. So Fred said, I backed down, turned around, kind of hunched down to get out of there. And I looked up, and Munger's standing up with his thumbs and his ears going, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, what in the hell, Fred said. And all of a sudden I heard Munger turn around, and he's coming down the hill as hard as he can. That moose right on his butt. And he said, I run, and he said there was a tree there. And they don't amount to much in that tundra, those trees, they're not very big. Fred said, I jumped, I crawled up the goddamn tree. Munger goes by me and the moose right on him. And Fred said he gets down there a ways, and one of these trees there has blown over, and it pulled that tundra up and kind of left a hole. So Munger jumped in that hole. Well, the moose come up to the hole and couldn't get down in it, but she put her head down, and it was whirling and bellowing around trying to get to him, couldn't get to him. So Fred said, I hollered at her, and she come back to my tree. Wasn't very far apart. She come back to the tree and paid attention to Fred, so Munger could get out of there, see? Well, Munger, he didn't have any place to go, but he started to get up out of the hole. When he did, he made it just a little ways there. That moose turned to come, and he dived back in the hole. So he gets in the hole, the moose does the same thing. She hollers around there, and Fred hollers. She finally comes back to his tree and pays attention to him. Munger gets out of the hole again, and he's running down the hillside now for another tree down there. It's just a little ways. And he's just going, he's a little short guy, and he's going as hard as he can go. Fred said, I hollered at him, Bob, get back in your hole. And he said, he's just a running. He said, I can't, Fred, there's a bear in it. And that was probably just all BS. But God, what a hell of a story. And they both told it the same. Now, what did you ask me about what?
Well, see.
Now, wait a minute. No, I got spot
They were
going.
on another bear hunt.
Okay, no
When
more.
they went on that bear hunt, and Bilderback's with them, see? And Munger's trying to shoot this black bear. Well, he shoots some arrows, and the bear's going up a tree. And he shoots, and then the arrows go over, and they get them, and some of them they're Fred's resharpening arrows and bringing them back to him, and Munger's shooting, and then going on, and pretty soon he had nothing but broken arrows, and They had 1 or 2 arrows left that Fred kind of patched up and repaired, and it was just trying to get an open spot. So Bilderback crawls up in the tree below the bear with a pole and pokes him around, and he says, "Now, Bob, tell me how you want him."
I got to tell you about Bilderback. The Bilderback was a little short guy. God, he was tough. He was a tough son of a gun. Well, he had a boat up there and everything, and he hunted the Eskimos up in that country, or the natives. They didn't like this certain kind of seal because it ate the fish that the natives ate. So there was a bounty on those seals, plus the skins were worth some money. And Bilderback had this boat, and he had a deal written up,
Valiant me.
a hydraulic deal, where he could skin those seals. And he'd take that boat out and shoot those seals and skin them, salt them, put them down the hole, and save them then for the bounty, plus then he could sell them. Well, I don't remember this story exactly, but he had a guy that was a pilot that could fly like a DC-3, a bigger airplane. The market was overseas someplace, Italy or someplace, France for the hides. And so Munger got this up. He got this guy hired to fly this airplane, to haul those sealskins, and there were several $1,000s worth of sealskins.
$80,000.
$80,000 back in those
The
years.
story goes this way.
Okay.
Knickerbocker, when Bilderback was in Bassett hunting, when we surprised Fred and Munger, brought him in, and he came to hunt with us there. And that was the year that Fred got his big whitetail, and Bilderback got the mule deer, and Knickerbocker got a mule deer, and Mike Steer got a couple of does, and Bob Kelly we had a heck of a hunt. It was in fall of '63. Anyway, Ed was talking and telling about these seals, and he had this guy over in France he hadn't collected from. He was trying to get the money from him, and he didn't know whether he was going to get it. And Knickerbocker is a real businessman, He shook his head and he said, "Ed, how in the hell can you ever make any money or take a living like that?" Nick said, Ed said, "I don't know, Nick. Guess it must just be the volume."
But anyway, did he ever get his money back or get anything back?
Never got that money.
Because the guy walked with the airplane and the seal money and everything, took off. Well, I got a picture of Eddie Bilderback on my wall in my shop with that big mule deer. He was just a hell of a guy. He was tough. God dang, he's a tough guy. I thought he was funny. But here's another story about Bilderback. He hauled Munger, more back to the Munger, Rick and his kid, and they were up there hunting bears along the coast. And they saw this, they're out of Bilderback's bigger boat, but they got a little skip thing to the banquet. And they saw this bear. Well, they talked it over and they didn't know whether it was a female with cubs or it didn't have cubs, or it was a legal bear and everything. And Munger said, "Well, I'll just go." And so Munger, knowing him, he just get him in the boat and he paddles over there and get on the beach and he gets up in the rocks and they lose track of Munger. They'd see the bear and then they wouldn't see the bear, and then they'd see Munger and they wouldn't see Munger. Pretty soon they heard boom. Well, they thought, hell, he's killed a bear. Bilderback figured he shot that bear. Well, the truth of the matter is that what happened was that Munger had gotten really close to that bear and it reared up, and it scared him. So he just shot up in front of the bear to scare it away. But when Bilderback heard the shot, he thought he'd killed the bear. He said, "You want me to bring the skinning knife?" Now this is Munger. Munger hollered, he couldn't even see him, Said, "You want me to bring the skinning knife?" Munger hollered back, "No, bring the toilet paper." God, he was a good guy. We had a lot of fun with him. He was a good guy. Yeah, old Munger. But he passed away, and that was too bad, but he drank too much. Yeah. But I had another something. I wanted to ask you about Bilderback getting that money. He never did get anything back. There was something I was going to ask you.
It died just about 2 years ago.
Yeah, I got that article.
The captain, and I want to talk a little bit about Art Laha. Art hunted with us, and Munger was there the night.
Anybody know who Art Laha was? Anybody?
Well, Art Laha was pioneer bow hunter in Wisconsin, and he hunted when he was a kid and provided meat for his family when there's no deer seasons. He probably poached quite a lot of deer with the bow and arrow early on, back in the 60s, 30s, in 1930s it was.
He worked on the Alcan Highway. He was an
Yeah,
engineer.
and anyway, Art wrote the articles. He was as much a part of getting the first deer seasons in Wisconsin as Roy Case was. Roy Case and Larry Whiffen and Art Laha were responsible for having bow seasons, separate bow seasons, and Wisconsin was the first state to have them. But those three worked hand in hand, side by side. Art did a lot of the legwork and the proving, you know, but he could trail and track. And then back in the 50s, he wrote articles to improve tracking, and he had an article in a TAM magazine called Detective on a Deer Trail. And then he came out with, he was different trades that he worked in, but he became butcher by trade. And he got a highway-killed doe, and he froze it and sawed it through lengthwise and took pictures of it. And he published this little pamphlet called Trailing Tips, which is a 4-leaf pamphlet showing that the first thing the arrow cuts when it hits a deer is hair. And there's different kinds of hair on the body of the deer, and if you study this, you can identify your hit and know how to handle the tracking and everything by the hair you find on the ground or on the arrow. Well, I got acquainted with Art Laha in Bismarck, North Dakota in 1961. I went up there on a little test run of selling some bear archery, whether I was going to be a bear rep and sell my lumberyard. Anyway, he had a program that night in a high school auditorium at Bismarck called Wintering Whitetails, where they were showing films in the wintertime where the whitetails would starve to death and what would cause them the death, you know, and losing out of their bones. So we got it, and